Hey there, it's John from Living the Music. Today we're going to go through some recent vinyl finds, some really good stuff that I've picked up over the last couple of months. Some of this comes from an excursion to Los Angeles a couple months ago, some from a great record store up in Albany here in New York, and another set comes from my local store near where I live in Kingston, New York. So let's dive in. Every album tells a story, as you know. And the first one I'm going to show you here is this original copy of Linda Ronstadt's Canciones de mi Padre. Now, this came out in 1987. This was her first Spanish language album, and she's basically doing traditional Spanish songs that she grew up singing with her family. So this album was near and dear to her heart. She actually went on to do a limited run on Broadway where she had, like a full Mexican band accompanying her and all kinds of great sets and costume changes, and I happened to see that. So that was a lot of fun. And I've been a fan of this album ever since it came out. I've had it on CD, but I've been kind of sort of half looking for it on album, and I was lucky enough to come upon it. It does sound great on my stereo. She's such a powerful voice. There's a couple of times on there where it distorts a little bit when she's really going for it vocally, but that's probably my system, and I'm sure it's not a flaw in the album. But this is a great clean copy, original. So wonderful to have this by Linda. All right, next up. Interesting because Jennifer Warnes is kind of close to Linda in my estimation. Her voice is very similar in timbre to Linda's, and I love Jennifer's voice. I love her whole vibe. She didn't put out nearly as many albums, a handful or so, or I think less than 10. And I've just kind of gotten into finding her stuff on vinyl. So this is a really nice album, shot through the heart, and this came out in '79. And actually, this one is just called Jennifer Warnes. This came out in '76. So both of these are really good. Just kind of like pleasant music from the time. It's not like heavy rock or anything like that, but along the lines of Linda Ronstadt. Although Jennifer doesn't necessarily bring in the country bluegrass feel that Linda sometimes does. But there she is. There's Jennifer in all her glory in the 70s. She is an amazing talent vocally, and she does some writing too. So she's got a couple or a few tracks each on these albums that she wrote. So that's nice, and these are great sounding, both of them. And then I also got her Leonard Cohen covers album, Famous Blue Raincoat, the songs of Leonard Cohen. This is an original. I had a previous copy of this, and it had a pretty big skip, or a couple skips actually, in the first song, First We Take Manhattan. So I keep looking for a better version, and sure enough, I got this one. It skips on that song too. So I don't know if there was something in the pressing of this, or I'm just getting unlucky, but it's really the only flaw in the whole album, and so I'm okay with it, I guess. But I love this album. I love her interpretation of Leonard Cohen's stuff. She really brought a lot of devotion to it, a lot of artistry. And in fact, Leonard eventually got on board with the project in a sense, and kind of supported her, and he actually duets on a song here as well. I believe he may have given her a tune also that he hadn't recorded. So wonderful album. If you've never heard this, I can definitely highly recommend it. I love her other stuff too. This is perhaps a bit more substantive, if you know what I'm saying, because of course it's Leonard Cohen lyrics. So there you go. That's my Jennifer Warnes haul so far this year. Next I'm going to show you is Titus Andronicus, and this is their third album, Local Business. let's see. This came out in 2012. By the way, this famous blue raincoat, this came out in 86. Okay? So about 10 years after those other albums I showed you, but her voice is, as powerful and wonderful and smooth as ever. So Titus Andronicus, that's a whole other side of the spectrum, kind of a punkish band. They sometimes call themselves punk folk or folk punk. So they got kind of both elements there, but I'd say it leans more in the punk direction. This one comes after their most acclaimed album, which was The Monitor, which came out in 2010. That's a double album, absolutely banger. Love that album to death. In fact, I say that's the best album that I've heard in the 2000s so far. But anyway, this was a little bit of a step back in songwriting, but also the production sound is a little bit more demo-ish sounding, if you will. But it's still quite good, and there's enough good songs on here that I wanted to get this on vinyl. So, I'm a pretty big Titus Andronicus supporter. I saw them out here in Woodstock, actually, in support of their latest album. That was 2 or 3 years ago now, but I hope they're busy beavering away on their next release. They're out in Marwa, New Jersey, or at least the main guy is Patrick Stickles. So hope he's got something coming pretty soon. All right, coming up next here in my finds is the first Klaatu album, self-titled. This came out in 76. It's funny, I have all their other albums. They have 5 albums total, and over the years I've just kind of found one here and there and accumulated the 4 albums after this, but I didn't have this one. And this is their most popular album by far. This one may have went gold in the States. In fact, in any case, it sold really well. They are known as being sort of Beatle imitators in a sense, and when this album came out, they didn't really say who was on it, who was part of the band, and so some radio stations picked up on that and said, oh, this could be the Beatles reformed secretly, and that kind of raged like wildfire and brought up the sales of this album big time. But there's also a pretty popular song on here called Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Space or Interplanetary Craft. Interplanetary Craft. Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft. Karen Carpenter, the Carpenters did a cover of that was a bit of a hit for them. But beautiful album. This has, great songs on it. It's very catchy and also very adventurous. It's not my favorite Klaatu album. My favorite is the one that comes after this called Hope. One of these days I'm going to get around to a Klaatu ranking now that I have all of them on vinyl. So there you go, Klaatu. Next up, I got a couple Roger Daltrey albums. I've been a fan of his solo stuff going back many years. I went through a period, maybe in my 30s or so, when I was really into his solo career, especially. But I'm still fond of it. So I didn't have this one on vinyl yet. This is from 1981. So this is right around the time The Who broke up for the first time. And so this is like, his greatest hits up till that time. And there's a couple of songs on here that are new also, and they're good songs too. So this is a great compilation by Roger. And then I saw this other one, which came out quite a bit later. What's it called? I Can't Wait to See the Movie. And this came out in 87. And this is also quite a good album. All of his solo albums are good, pretty high quality. Of course, he's not really a writer, so he had to bring in outside guys to support him, but he generally worked with very good writers. Originally he did Leo Sayer songs, And, later he brings in all kinds of different people. Pete helps him a little bit. I want to say Russ Ballard, but I'm not positive. But anyway, this is a cool album too by Roger. It didn't cost me much, and good to add it to my collection. All right, next up, I got Boston's third album. I've been getting into Boston since that book came out. I did a short video on this little mini book, about 100 pages, come out late last year, going through the whole saga of Tom Schultz getting in dual lawsuits with his record label. And it was all leading up to this album because it took so long after Don't Look Back. It took like 8 years for this album, Third Stage, to finally be released in 1986. Is it as good as the first two? Not quite, but it's damn good. Really, no doubt, damn good. I love some of the songs on here quite a bit. The big hit was Amanda, which is wonderful. So, I got a lot of time for this album. To Be a Man is great. Yeah, it's a fine piece of work. In fact, to me, it's really their last album that I have much time for at all. But great to have it. And it does sound great on vinyl, too. All right, next up, I finally got a copy of Heaven and Hell by Black Sabbath. Legendary album from 1980. I used to have a copy of this, but for whatever reason, it's gone by the wayside. And so I've been looking for a good copy, and I haven't really been able to find one, so I finally broke down and bought this reissue. I eventually would like to get an original, hopefully a Vertigo label from either the UK or Europe somewhere. I have an original Mob Rules from France, which is cool. But I'm sure this sounds great too, and it does have an extra disc of bonus material with a lot of great live material. So can't go wrong with good old Heaven and Hell, the first Ronnie James Dio album. And really, I had gotten into them a little bit before that, maybe, like, sort of Paranoid and that kind of stuff. But it was with this album that I really, dug deep into my Sabbath fandom. And I actually saw them on this tour in the Bay Area at A Day on the Green, hosted by Bill Graham at Oakland Stadium. Wow. Never forget that. All right, next up, I finally got Rush Feedback. So this is an EP that they put out in 2004. As you can imagine, the vinyl is not so easy to find. In fact, I don't think it was released with vinyl initially. They did a reissue campaign at some point. I missed the boat on it. I didn't grab it when I could. So this is actually the last remaining studio album of Rush for me to get on vinyl. So quite surprised to find this in my local record store here, Rhino Records in Kingston. $30, sealed, brand new. Cool. I'm not a huge fan of this album, having heard it on CD many times. I don't love their song selection, but it's still Rush, so still high quality. Next up, I got this Steve Hackett album, Highly Strung. This comes from 1983. I am a big Steve Hackett fan from Genesis, of course. I'm a huge Peter Gabriel era Genesis fan. I like some of the Phil Collins era stuff as well. And I just love these album covers. His wife at the time was, I think, a famous painter, Kim Poor. And she does these just very colorful, dreamy sort of, paintings, originals, that I think just add a lot to the aesthetic of the album. So I'm sure the music is good as well, but half the reason I'm getting it is because I love the artwork. All right, next up, I got Mirage by Fleetwood Mac. This came out in 1982. I saw them on this tour as well. when I was in high school in the Bay Area. But yeah, I haven't had this on vinyl for whatever reason, and came across this for $25. It's in good shape, original. So wonderful. Not as great, of course, as, Rumors or the self-titled or even Tusk probably, but still some very good songs on here. There's a great Stevie song called That's All Right that I really love. So, but everything is good. All right, now this was interesting. So this is a metal band, stoner metal, so more or less, called The Sword. I was flicking through the new arrivals in my local record store, and I saw this cover, and I just thought, wow, that looks pretty cool. I'm a big medieval history buff in a sense, and so that really captures my attention, and also the ancient world also of ancient Greece and Rome and all that. So this kind of has some of both of that in a sense. And so I asked the guy, does he know what this sounds like? He's like, well, let's put it on. Sure enough, he puts it on. It's got some heavy riffage going on, but thankfully it's not death metal. It doesn't have that growly voice. He's singing clean style. He's not stupendous vocal talent, but good enough. Interesting lyrics, and the riffs are killer. And apparently this is their heaviest of all their albums. They got, a little bit more than half a dozen albums or so, I think. And this is their second release. And they went even heavier from the first release. And I love that. I love the guitars. I can get into some pretty heavy riffage at times. I love when the distorted guitars are really high up in the mix, like with Tool, and these guys pull it off. So my sons, I introduced my son to them. He says they kind of sound like indie Mastodon, and that's probably a good call. They're pretty close to Mastodon, whom I like also. All right, getting close to the end here. We got this new reissue by Tori Amos. So this is, by the way, that Gods of the Earth came out in 2008, if I didn't say that. But this reissue by Tori came out this year. This original album, Strange Little Girls, is from 2001. It came out, a week or, less than a week after the 9/11 attacks in America. So quite a tough time for the album, of course, but not one of my favorites in any case. So this is a covers album where she's taking on all kinds of somewhat famous songs or somewhat slightly obscure. So she's got a Bonnie and Clyde by Eminem on here. She's got Heart of Gold by Neil Young. I Don't Like Mondays by the Boomtown Rats. Happiness is a Warm Gun by the Beatles. She kind of gives a feminine interpretation. I think maybe the most heralded song from this album is I'm Not in Love, her cover of 10cc. And I seem to recall her talking about that, where that song is written from the male point of view about how the guy's trying to downplay his attraction and his feeling for the woman that he really pines for, but he doesn't want to say it to himself or to her. And Tori kind of took off on that, and I think as a feminist, she could kind of see the dark side of that, and how men quite often can be very reluctant to be vulnerable and just kind of say I love you and be all in, and so I think it's sort of a bit of a comment on that, and how that can really be tough for women, and in a sense almost abusive for women at times. So I have a lot of sympathy for that. I love Tori's take on life. And you can see here that this on the album, it had, on the original album, she took all these different portraits, and each of these pictures represents the song that that goes with it. So when she did this reissue, you could choose the image you want for the cover. I chose this one because that's the most attractive image in my opinion. And yeah, I think Tori is very beautiful, and I always have. And this image goes with the song Rattlesnakes, right? Yeah, Rattlesnakes. So this has a couple of tunes that were never released, which is cool, and it has a couple that were B-sides. So you get some bonus material here, so happy to have this. And finally, the last one I'm going to share with you today is another Tori album. This is her latest studio release in physical form anyway. She did a sort of mini album that accompanied her children's book, Tori and the Muses, but that's never been released in physical form. This one, Ocean to Ocean, came out in 2021. She's got a new one coming out very soon in the next couple of months, so I'm looking forward to that greatly. But this is a beautiful album to have. She's always so good with her imagery. She really takes her time and puts her effort and her money to create wonderful looking artwork. And this is no exception. And also, the inner sleeves have a lot of extra pictures, and then this particular copy is translucent, kind of aqua blue, so that's very pretty. So I'm slowly kind of building up my Tori LP collection. I have all her stuff on CD, and I would like to get as much as I can on LP. Some is quite expensive, like From the Choir Girl Hotel is going for $300-400 because I think that came out in a limited run initially, and she hasn't re-released it yet. So I'm waiting for the re-release of that one. I don't see myself going for that big ticket item. But anyway, that's my vinyl finds of the last couple of months. Thanks for watching. Please give this video a like. And any comment, love to hear it. If you've got any of these albums, let me know. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.